can say what you want about the Ball family. You can say that only one of the three has lived up to expectations. You can say that the enormous hype that has followed the family for almost a decade has been disproportionate. But what you cannot deny is that LaVar Ball had a point. It's 2025, and we have a chance to look back. Which parts of the prophecy were finally fulfilled? Because the Ball family promised change. LaVar promised 3 generational players who would dominate the NBA for more than a decade. Has it been so? Nah. Whether due to injuries, poor talent, judgment, or the very external circumstances surrounding any athlete, we can't say that's been the case. But can you say that LaVar was completely wrong? Nope. We're going to take a look back to see how a celeb father marked a before and after for basketball in many ways. We're going to talk about how some of his crazy claims have become reality. He said he only made boys with incredible genetics.
Tina's an athletic woman. I'm an athletic man. It's all lined up.
He also said LaMelo was going to be the best one of the next level.
Lonzo's a facilitator. He can do his thing. He can score. Lonzo, but Jello is the heck of a shooter. Now, Melo learns from both of them. So Melo is the only one in my family that can play the 1 or the 2. Melo can flip from playing the 1 out of necessity, passing the ball, to flipping over the 2 to try to score 100 points on his own.
And his desire of dressing Lonzo with purple and gold was fulfilled.
All of it, but the main thing is just being home. I like being home, hometown kid, and they're right here in LA where I'm from.
So let's take a deep dive into it. It was the mid-2010s. A unique process was brewing in Southern California. The atmosphere of high school courts in the area was being conquered by an unrepeatable phenomenon because Chino Hills, led by Lonzo Ball, had an unrepeatable roster. He looked like a new generational guard that would dominate the NBA, with a game that reminded people of Jason Kidd or Steve Nash. Lonzo walked all over courts in California and set social media on fire. His YouTube mixtapes accumulated massive views, and it was something that we hadn't seen before. Last time a tape in California got this many views, it was Ray J giving Kim K the people's elbow on the bed. LaVar was starting to become more famous than your average father of a high school player should be.
Everything is a plan for me picking my woman.
Basically, because he said he had a plan, and he had the personality to execute it to perfection. Lonzo wasn't alone. In his final season at Chino Hills, he had his 2 brothers by his side. Liangelo and LaMelo Ball seemed to have the same talent that would make it to the NBA. But there was still a long way to go before that process could take place. The trio was one of the best teams in the state. 5-0 record, they proved their dominance. They were indestructible like Bruce Willis in Unbreakable. They scored a ridiculous amount of points on fast breaks. Their famous press defense allowed them to rack up a huge amount of extra possessions. We were California dry cleaners with the amount of times that they pressed. Chino Hills was the best team around, all thanks to 3 Ball brothers. But unfortunately, not all 3 were equally as good. Lonzo was the first to leave the team to pursue his dreams in college, playing for UCLA. And the truth is that he managed to back up all the absurd claims of a father who wanted his son to be the starting point guard of the Los Angeles Lakers. He balled out. He wore purple and gold, but some of his games left him black and blue like Jaden Smith in the first 30 minutes of Karate Kid. In his Lakers years, the ball did not bounce his way. The Lakers succumbed to adversity, and it seemed that LaVar should take his ball and go home. But the reality is that LA was not using Lonzo the way he was meant to be used. They were using a side dish as the main course. After being traded to the New Orleans Pelicans, his role was completely reconverted. In fact, in his second season in New Orleans and in a half season he played in Chicago before getting injured, he was one of the best defensive guards in the NBA. Not only that, falling after reconstructing his form, he went from laying more bricks than a stonemason to being a laundromat. Cash only. The making was still completely elite, but he caught the injury bug like the wildfire virus in The Walking Dead, bro, and that prevented him from continuing his career as an elite role player. He was an NBA can of tuna, just sitting on the shelf. And after undergoing revolutionary reconstructive methods, he's trying to get back to his level. Was LaVar right about Lonzo? Well, if we know anything, he was for sure an NBA talent. Maybe not the generational talent that we were promised, though. Liangelo Ball was less lucky. He was the middle brother, and at the same time, the one with the least talent. It was like his genes went on Do Not Disturb for Jello. His dominating days at Chino Hills stood in contrast to what would happen to him later. His season at UCLA was derailed after trying to get the 5-finger discount at a Louis Vuitton store in China. Has he not seen Rush Hour? One thing that China and Jello have in common, they don't play.
They don't play at all.
After trying several times, he failed to make a place for himself in the NBA. Liangelo was selected 14th overall in the G League draft, but could only manage 19 games before being cut. He never played a single minute in the NBA, despite being brought to the Hornets franchise as a Make-A-Wish gift for his younger brother. He had to make a living elsewhere, trying to find his niche where he could fit in. His professional experience before the draft came when he played in Lithuania with LaMelo, and that allowed him to learn some other types of basketball. And today, we can say Liangelo's promise was never fulfilled. But his promise was not completely in vain. Despite not reaching the highest of highs on the basketball court, he may have a future on the mic though. His song Tweaker has taken social media by storm, gathering millions of views in only a couple of days. Half singer, half basketball player. He's the light-skinned Troy Bolton. That's where the ball really kept rolling. LaMelo was right behind him, and after scoring 92 points in a game with Chino Hills, the media attention began to focus on him, and everyone wondered what the road to the NBA would be for one of the best prospects in the country. But the truth is, LaVar had something in store. His father didn't want him to go to college. He believed LaMelo was above all of that. He made the decision to go to Lithuania and hoop. He was on his Andrius Ilgauskas time. However, the minutes agreed upon in Pernai did not satisfy the Balls, and LaVar decided to create a circuit of his own in the United States. Before Overtime Elite, before Donda Academy, LaVar created the Junior Basketball Association, JBA, a competition where high school age kids could get fully paid to play basketball against top-level opponents, and the circuit worked relatively successfully, attracting enough talent to get it off the ground. In an era when private circuits, along with the G League's Ignite team, began to threaten college and the NCAA, LaVar went down in history as a visionary. He saw the future like That's So Raven. The mafia-style organization that the NCAA had been for decades was forced to change its process from exploiting players. And, in part, LaVar is one of the factors that has precipitated the NIL's arrival in college sports. But the only significant reality is that everything he said about LaMelo Ball was true. He was selected 3rd overall in the 2020 draft. His attractive and flashy game surprised all those naysayers who said his style would never adapt to the NBA. He has proven to be an all-star caliber talent in the best basketball league in the world. His potential is still unimaginable, as this season has shown once again. LaMelo has the potential to be a superstar at some point in his career. LaVar didn't lie about this one. In fact, he may have understated his hype for his youngest son. The Ball story is an amazing one. This is the story of a father with a plan, of a man who dreams that his 3 sons would not only dedicate themselves to becoming professional basketball players, but that they would be a part of the elite group of players doing it. He thought he would have the basketball version of the Jacksons, but drawing attention to himself, he managed to hype his 3 sons while withstanding all the media pressure. But his gamble, years later, seems to have paid off. 2 of his 3 sons are undoubted NBA talents. One of them is even better than we were promised, and while Liangelo may be left at home like Macaulay Culkin, 2 out of 3 is a great shooting percentage. Big Baller Brand is a recognizable brand to basketball fans everywhere, and the family's net worth seemed to be assured for at least a couple generations. His ideals were crazy, and his methods were not to everyone's liking, but right now, it's impossible to say that LaVar's plan wasn't accomplished. His goal, his life objective, was more than achieved.